What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ruffle Rowlett, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today, we're going to have some Pokemon to talk about. Yes, we got some Pokemon rumors to talk about, news and update. This is your daily Pokemon Legends ZA update video. So, let's get started right off the bat with the first thing we have, which is going to be here on 4chan. So yes, this is the VP board on 4chan, which usually, of course, I know a lot of the stuff that's posted here is going to be BS, but there's always a chance, okay? We have had legitimate, actual Pokemon leaks happen on 4chan. So that's why I'm going to just tell you right now that it's worthwhile to look at. And this post was posted today, and I think it's an interesting one, to say the least. So let's start from the beginning. First thing it says is, hello, I'm friends with a leaker from a Chinese forum. Now, that's them trying to kind of use the well-known fact that there are a lot of Chinese uncles and people within the Chinese community that tend to leak stuff, right? There tends to be a lot of leaks from the Chinese community when it comes to Pokemon. And this person is kind of saying that they know somebody from there. Of course, that anybody can claim whatever they want. It's the internet, but still kind of interesting what they're starting with. And they're saying that I can share a few things that I've heard about Pokemon Legends Z-A. Don't know what they said, why they said Z-A, because it's literally called Z-A, but I digress. Moving on. They say that the big bad is a legendary Pokemon named something like Asteris, which sounds like a fair name, I guess. I'm not sure if it has any actual connection to anything like real. If we actually search it up on Google, it doesn't seem to show any sort of interesting connections to anything. It's just a made-up name. Next up, though, he says that it's a grass and dragon type. And, ooh, okay, grass dragon. I'm going to be honest. Actually pretty solid, I'm not gonna lie. That's actually, you know, I wouldn't mind that. That would be an interesting combination. But yeah, so that's pretty much what it starts off with. But it continues on. It has a few more things to say. So the next thing it says is, it's forcing Pokemon to Mega Evolve throughout the region. Basically, like, destroying nature, so the region's inhabitants are building a bigger city to house more Pokemon and people. Okay, that's an interesting premise. I think it's an intriguing premise to have, like, basically one Pokemon being the villain, causing a lot of harm around the region, which kind of sounds a little bit like Dynamax, and how kind of like, you know, some Dynamax Pokemon would ravage the Galar region a little bit. Like, it sounds a little bit in that direction, if that makes any sense, right? It fits a little bit more into that path of things. But, again, I don't really know. What do you guys think about this? So yeah, let's continue on to the next one. So the next thing is 50 Mega Evolutions in the game. That's a lot. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. That would be a lot of Megas. But apparently only Delphox and Greninja are the only new ones. Now, see, the reason I think that is instantly fake is because there is no way, okay, no way that they would make 2 new Megas and that's it. Like, no way, shape, or form would they ever decide that Delphox and Greninja are the only 2 Pokemon that would get new forms. And what, they're just going to skip over, like, you know, the whole, like, Chespin evolutionary line? They're just going to skip over that? Like, that's just, I doubt that would be the case. I just don't think that would be very realistic of them to do. Like, I don't think that would be something they would want to do. But nonetheless, moving on to the next thing, they said that lots of new regional variant Pokemon, including a fairy gumshoes with hair and a comb. That, again, sounds a little bit far-fetched, but again, who knows? The Trump Pokemon might get some love, I guess. Amaris from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet makes an appearance, and that might connect. I mean, I guess maybe the person's trying to fake it by trying to connect it to Riddler-Coup. If you guys do not know who Riddler-Coup is a legitimate leaker. He's been correct like 99% of the time, and he has been incorrect recently about some stuff, but again, the stuff he was quote-unquote incorrect about, it wasn't really, it's not even been confirmed if it actually is incorrect. Nonetheless, though, what I'm trying to say is that he's trying to seemingly make a connection to a post that was made by that leaker. And what he says next is, Zygarde almost has nothing to do with the game, and it's a post-game choosable fight. You collect cells and battle a giant one while you're on top of Prism Tower. I highly doubt that the game called Pokemon Legends Z, right? No way that a game called Legends Z is not going to be more important about, like, Legends, you know, a legendary like, you know, Zygarde. There's no way Zygarde isn't going to get more love. Like, that's just unfathomable, okay? It's just unlikely, impossible that would be the case. However, the idea of having a battle on top of Prism Tower, I think, is actually likely. I think that might happen. Moving on. Starter Pokemon are Totodile, Litten, and Snivy. I can see that combo working. I don't think that's a crazy combination. I think it is definitely possible. Moving on, you can craft Mega Stones. And it's something I actually talked about yesterday, so I wonder if that's maybe related to that theory I was reading from one of the audience members and people on Twitter. But, like, the theory was like, oh, what if, like, you know, what if they decide for this game that, you know, instead of crafting Pokeballs like we did in Legends Arceus, instead we would craft something different. Like, we would craft essentially Mega Stones, which I think would be a cool idea. though I wonder how that would even work. But yeah. Now he says most quality of life improvements of past Legends games return. So, just quality of life improvements, stuff that was better in Legends Arceus, just general stuff like speed at which you use certain stuff, the interface, stuff like that would be the same. Moving on. Apparently 5 diverse biomes, similar to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. One of them has a giant tree that you can climb. Branches yield fairy-type Pokemon. Okay, and the game has 5 Novas instead of gym leaders, and I guess that is all they know, sadly. So that's pretty much where this rumor ends, and that's pretty much all it has to say, but I think it's an intriguing one nonetheless. Again, some of the stuff makes me think it's fake, and I think the biggest thing is Delphox and Greninja being the only Pokemon that gets some form of new new Mega. That just doesn't... no way that it's the only thing they're going to do. That just isn't possible, in my opinion. There's no way they're going to just casually gloss over all the other ones and just be like, never mind. Nah, let's just skip over, all the good stuff. Giving a Mega to every starter. Let's just do it for 2. That just seems so stupid. It makes no sense. But that's pretty much where that rumor ends. I thought we'd take a look at the next thing, which is a bit of a theory from none else than Soul Silver, who says guessworthy Synchro Machine foreshadowing hint was from ? He says Pokemon X and Y. Now, what he's talking about here is that this person in the game here talks about a device that lets you become a Pokemon. Would anyone want to do that? He asked that question, and guess what? We got that with the Synchro Machine, right? We literally got that. You guys can see here from Icarus Universe, who literally figured out a device that lets you become a Pokemon. Would you want that? And yeah, it's just a weird one. This is something he talked about with Scarlet and Violet as well, saying, once again, we see that Game Freak have IDs years in advance before actually implementing those IDs in the new Pokemon game. And actually, it seems they've had this ID since the beginning with Bill in Red and Blue. I love this find. And this was already back then. And then synchronizing with your Pokemon, exploring your surroundings. And this is the whole thing from the second DLC, which pretty much says, once you've progressed far enough in your adventure in the Hidden Treasure Area of Zero Part 2, the Indigo Disc, you'll be able to use a device called the Synchro Machine to see the world through the eyes of your Pokemon. While synchronizing with one of your Pokemon, you'll be able to move them around and have to battle wild Pokemon. A fresh new way to play the game. It appears that this device is still a prototype. You'll be able to use it once you help a scientist in the terrarium. So, ooh, right? Intriguing. Now, what he says here following, though, is logically, Game Freak could be following up on this line of dialogue in Pokemon Legends ZA. Part 2. Expanding on the idea of PLZA being a game where you would want to travel from the past to the future at will, what if we did this through the Synchro Machine? Our player doesn't get physically to time travel to the future, but instead, through the machine, their mind can enter a Pokemon that is already in the future or vice versa. Now, this mechanic would be something like Assassin's Creed's games, right? And what he talk about here is Assassin's Creed games is, in Assassin's Creed, basically, you're not actually technically playing in the past as the assassins. Originally, at least that's how it was in the first 4 games. What's actually happening is you're playing as a human in the present time who's using, with a company, they're using a machine to enter his memories or his ancestors' memories through his DNA, and then you get to experience all that stuff that the ancestor did. That's basically what they do in Assassin's Creed. So what he's saying here is that this idea comes from, basically says it could be similar to that, where one part of the game would be played as the player character set in the past, and another part of the game would be set in the future through the projection machine as a Pokemon. Now, this idea comes from what happens in the teaser trailer for PLZA when the scene changes from old-timey blueprint sketches to the futuristic projection blueprint. There's a literal transition scene where the view stretches to full screen, the Quasar Team logo pops up, and maybe they had this tech to project into the future, and then the camera changes to the perspective of the following Pokemon. I don't know, maybe it's a little too much, but yeah, he's saying the same stuff I have been saying throughout the longest time now. I've been saying this since the trailer was revealed. It's exactly what I said. I said, look at the screen size, it's 4:3, it's a past camera, and then when it goes into the future, the size, the black bars on the sides disappear, and we're watching it from the perspective, from the first person perspective. Look, it's a Pokemon looking up, right? It's from Pikachu's eyes, and then it fades away from Pikachu's eyes. Look, it literally zooms away from it, so you see it from a third person view, so we can see him running around, because it's no longer, you're no longer in control. Now we see him from the side. Again, it's interesting. It's a bit weird. It's a bit different. And that's kind of what made me think that. And I even shared down here, I actually included this little tweet that I tweeted out below, where I specifically said that, also, and this is, by the way, something that was sent to me by one of you guys in the audience. I don't remember exactly who sent this my way. I'm so sorry. But I covered this already in previous video as well. But I want to just mention it again. If you actually look at the map, right? If you actually look at the map of of Pokemon Legends ZA, the one that's shown of the city at the end, the one that's the sketched map. Interestingly, the logo here, this logo at one part of the map, looks oddly similar to the Synchro machine logo. It's the same S-shaped kind of circle Pokeball design. Same thing here, S-shaped kind of Pokeball circle design. Like, it's the exact same thing I'm seeing, and it's very interesting to me because it kind of gives me, again, that feeling that, yeah, we might be able to control our Pokemon. And again, they called the Synchro machine a prototype. Remember, it literally says it right here, fresh new way to play the game. It appears that this device is still a prototype, right? So the way I'm seeing this is as basically the prototype version of the Synchro machine. We're going to see the full version of it in this game. Like, I think we're going to see the full version of this in the game. Like, it just makes total sense. And then you also see it on here, like people saying that's maybe just a Bill reference. And then Soul says, while it definitely was just a reference to Bill, as I stated in one of the screenshots, out of all the games, this ID was revisited in X and Y and then made real in Gen 9, which is the same gen that a new Generation 6 game will be in. Foreshadowing isn't the right term, truly, it's a callback. The theory is that they looked at all the lines and the whole concept that started from Bill and said, hey, since there's a line in X and Y about this, let's make a fully functional mechanic in PLZA. Could have been the case. Could have been how they decided to do this. But again, I think nonetheless, no matter how you twist it, I think this is interesting. I think this is cool. Like, I don't know about you all, but I like this kind of stuff. This kind of stuff is actually really fun. And it like adds like a level of, you know, theorizing into these games that is something we don't usually, you know, always see. Like, we didn't have as much of this stuff, I would say, like, you know, back in Gen 8. Now I feel like there's way more just kind of like connections and stuff that we can make. So I'm happy with that. We've always had connections in Pokemon games between this and that and, you know, callbacks and all that. But at least they're making it a little bit more intriguing, and I'd love to know what you guys think. Please let me know in the comment section down below, guys. Do you think there is a connection between PLZA's, like, this you know, like, Synchro machine thing, and also the actual Synchro machine that we see? Like, do you think there's going to be a connection between those two? And do you think that the callback from X and Y, having this, like, professor asking you this, do you think that has any sort of leverage or connection to this whatsoever? So let me know in the comment section down below. Now we're going to move on to some actual official news, which is Cerebi update. Another new distribution has been announced. During the next week's episode of the Pokemon anime, a serial code will be given out. Currently, it's unclear what the code will be distributing, but provide full details as they come. And a lot of people were thinking maybe Captain Pikachu, but that's unlikely, just like Cerebi says here. Not really possible because you know, Captain Pikachu is not really coded into Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. It doesn't exist in any data mines or any files anywhere, so highly unlikely. However, they did give this announcement instead. A new distribution has been announced. You can get your hands on Iron Hands based on Macro Silva's Iron Hands during the European International Championships stream next month. So yeah, there's going to be a good Pokemon, just like Austin John says down here. Really good Pokemon for raids. So if you need a Pokemon for raiding in Pokemon, then this is like literally like your go-to. Like, if you need something for good raids, this is basically what you're going to be requiring. And in this case, doesn't look like that bad of a Pokemon. It's Iron Hands, okay? Iron Hands is like the #1 go-to for a lot of stuff. Seriously, I don't really know what else I could say about it. Like, it's a lot to say. But nonetheless, let's move on to the next thing. Now, this is another theory by Soul Silver, and basically he says, very suspicious indeed. And he's talking about a post here from Pokemon Legends Shitpost, which is a great account you guys should definitely follow, who said Legends Arceus' loading symbol is very similar to the symbol that appears in Legends ZA's trailer. Now, this was something we actually talked about, and finally somebody mentioned this, but this was actually discovered by, I think, Mordecai's Pokemon. Him and another person already discovered this actually in one of their tweets, and I guess now people are finding it themselves. But yes, oddly enough, the loading symbol that we see in Legends Arceus, the one that you see in the corner, right, when you're loading between locations, does look oddly similar to the one that we see for Team Quasar. At least we're calling them Team Quasar. But basically, we figured out that the design of this thing up here on the right, this thing, does actually look like the shape of a quasar, which is an event that takes place in space. It's basically a black hole that sucks everything in around it and creates like a weird shape and stuff. And it kind of looks just like this. And it's like it's literally a star in the middle, a black hole that, was created from a dying star. And then around it, all these like dust particles and everything just kind of being sucked into the middle. That's basically the design of this. And it makes sense because again, X and Y was the generation that they planned originally to do a whole space theme, right? Like, the original plan for it was to introduce a bunch of space stuff, which kind of makes sense because the game that came out right after X and Y was ORAS, where you literally travel to space to deal with Deoxys and, you know, whatever, right? Like, they literally did a whole space thing eventually. So what I'm trying to say is that there's a literal space theme throughout X and Y, and then doing some more space shit like Team Flare. Team Flare is literally based on solar flares. All the Team Flare admins are literally based on different levels of solar flares, like different levels of you know, intensity, so to say. So that's pretty much what we have with that one. It's kind of a cool connection, but what Soul has to say is very suspicious indeed. It could have been a little Easter egg to what was coming in PLZA. Now, how freaking cool would it be if they somehow connected the stories of Pokemon Legends Arceus and Pokemon Legends ZA? Maybe a part of the supposed Team Quasar was present in PLA. I love to see that kind of continuity, but that's just a dream, really, lol. But yeah, a lot of people are wondering maybe if, like, it'd be cool if the Gingo Guild actually, like, you know, the one we see in, you know, PLA, became what ends up being Quasar. That actually would be pretty cool. But yeah, that's pretty much where we are in regards to that one. I don't really know what else to say about this exact post. Besides that, I would love to know what you guys think about it. But it is interesting how they're kind of connecting these little things. Also, there's this really cool, like, little teaser post. Like, this is, of course, a fake one. But it is of basically, like, the Eternal Flower, right? And, like, I'm really hoping that what Game Freak and them will be doing for this actual whole release and stuff is that maybe, I'm really hoping here, okay? I'm praying for this. I'm really hoping that they will do these little, like, posts where they do these little, like, almost, like, old school photos to kind of hint at stuff, like doing like little, almost like fake leaks almost, you know what I mean? Like official leaks by actually them, which are made to come out like this. Because they did something similar for Legends Arceus to reveal Hisuian Zorua. And that's actually when, like, we actually had a leak from Ridley-Koo, which confirmed Hisuian Zorua before it was officially revealed. He actually confirmed it with his riddles. And guess what? We could get a similar situation now where, like, maybe they can do this kind of stuff. He can give us information ahead of time. I don't know. I just think it would be a cool thing for them to reveal stuff like this. And again, shout out to Card NL for making cool stuff like this. I think it's just really sick. And I think it'd be interesting if they did do, like, little hints like this, leaving little small details. I think it just would be fun, man. I just think it would be fun. But yeah, that's pretty much that in regards to that thing. Then there was also this post. Now, this post originally I saw on 4chan, and somebody was questioning, does anybody have a clue what this is? And apparently it's like a statue, I think from X and Y, but nobody was able to figure out what it was. And people are now speculating that this could be maybe what they use for inspiration or design of the new legendary, the A legendary, right? Because the game's called ZA. Z is for Zygarde, A is for something else. But people are speculating that maybe that's what we're looking at right here, like the shape and design of what that thing might look like. That's just, again, just theories. It could mean just nothing. Could just be a human design here. Could just be the shape of a trainer. Could be a shape of a king, queen, whatever. I can't really tell. But at least I thought I would share this with you guys. Just see what you all think about it. Because, again, like I said, a lot of people have already been talking about this and bringing it up. And just, I thought, hey, you know what I mean? Let's just talk about it as well and just bring it up as well, because honestly, why not? Might as well bring it up and just explain it. However, I'm looking through more of the posts we have, and for the most part, I think we've gone through a lot of the stuff. There is another 4chan post which we could go through as well, which goes through and just says some similar stuff to the stuff we've already talked about, so it doesn't necessarily hold a lot of new value for us. Again, speaking of this thing that we have on the screen, like I said, a lot of people do think that the A, like the whole shape of the A, is related to this, and even Soul said, many have pointed this out already, but I believe that the A in Legends ZA could represent a brand new Pokemon that this game revolves around. The Z has Zygarde's hexagons, which you guys can see, of course, the hexagons of Zygarde, which if you don't already know, I'm going to show you a little bit of a post about this exact thing as well, because I do think somebody made a post about this, which is, of course, Mikado here. I basically said, so this apparently is a thing. What does a hexagon grow into? Koo is a trickster and a clever one at that. And he's talking about this post from Ridley-Koo. Again, like I said earlier, Ridley-Koo is a legitimate leaker. Of course, recently people have not trusted him as much because he hasn't given any concrete info on Legends ZA or no hints to it. But he did tweet like a kind of a hexagon and said, what will this grow into? And well, if you think about it, if you take all the Zygarde cells and combine them, they grow into, well, this thing, right? Like combined, they grow into literally Zygarde. So again, interesting one, and but I don't really know if this is connected. I think a lot of people connect this more to, you know, the actual stuff we saw in Indigo Disc, like Terapagos, because that was the same shape on Terapagos as well. So I don't really know if this is necessarily connected to this, but what it does actually connect to perfectly, though, or at least like what we do know, is that these like, you know, little hexagons are definitely connected to Zygarde itself. And that's what he says here. The Z has Zygarde's hexagons, while the A has a more like leaf-like pattern on it, so like almost like a tree, right? Which kind of looks reminiscent to, of course, the ultimate weapon from so, you know, Pokemon X and Y. Like, it looks very similar to the ultimate weapon, which, if that's what it's related to, then I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's, how do I say this? Like, if it's connected, cool. I wonder how they're going to pull it off and what they're going to do about it. Are they going to show it to us? But, like, again, keep in mind, this whole game takes place just in Lumiose. So how they're going to be able to fit all that lore and stuff into one location, I'm very curious to see. Like, I don't know how they're going to do it. But again, it could be connected to it because they look the same in terms of shape. I think the interesting part is the actual, like, little veins or like, you know, almost like the kind of, what do you call them? Like, when a tree grows, like the roots, right? Basically, it looks very similar to the roots of a tree, kind of like sucking up the energy and life force and kind of like, you know, keeping the tree alive. What I kind of wonder is, are we going to see basically what the ultimate weapon is? And is it based on the Tree of Life, which is from Norse mythology? It's the giant tree that, you know, the big snake lives in, the deer, I think it's a hawk or an eagle or something like that, as well as, I think, Ratatoskr, right? Which Ratatoskr is like a little squirrel legendary, or a squirrel, like, god of sorts, you know, from Norse mythology. And I'm wondering if maybe this is supposed to represent the actual tree itself rather than an actual Pokemon. But what he says here, though, is that Zygarde also already has technically over 3 forms, including 100% perfect form. So I don't think it will get another form in this game, unless it's like some kind of corrupted form. I think it will play a part in the story, but so will the A Pokemon. Personally, I think it could be a Pokemon that is an alien, that is the origin of Mega Crystals and the Sun and Moon Dial. Of course, there's also the fact that it looks like the ultimate weapon, which is connected to Xerneas and Yveltal. So it could be the origin of this weapon instead. Now, the contrast of life and death theming would play out again with Zygarde, which is equals life and balance. And then, of course, the A Pokemon could be death and destruction and, you know, chaos. Like, basically, Zygarde is, you know, peace and prosperity. The other one is pure chaos, right? Like that. The other one would be the Pokemon of destruction and chaos. But again, that's just theories. And that's pretty much where we're at in regards to that. I don't really think there's much else to mention in regards to these. So just a quick run through of what we have, guys. So basically, we have this 4chan post. I'm going to be honest, I don't think it's real. And again, it really kills me because this part is the part that sounds the most unrealistic, right? The Delphox and Greninja thing just doesn't sound real to me, obviously. Next up, of course, we had the fact that, like, we have the Synchro machine kind of already being hinted by, of course, Bill back in Red and Blue, like him literally turning himself into a Pokemon. And then, of course, this guy kind of talking about it here. But then eventually we did get it. And now, like I said in my tweet here, we do have, like, this little icon here that looks oddly similar to the actual Synchro machine. Like, the actual shape of it looks oddly similar, but it doesn't even end there, you know? Like, there's just still more connections to be made. Then, of course, we can't forget about the fact that there's going to be a new distribution announcement. I don't know if it's this one. I don't know if it's confirmed now that this is the actual distribution, that it's Iron Hands, but if it is Iron Hands, it's a great Pokemon for raids, so definitely get your hands on it once it is out, and that's going to be a bit later next month, so stay tuned for that. Of course, there's the possibility of the logo being connected to Arceus. Again, no guarantees on that either, but it's a kind of an interesting little point to make. And of course, these are like the tears in space, by the way. So could be that they're using tears in space to travel between past and future in this game. Of course, the possibility of new little hints and stuff, whatever this thing is. And of course, the fact that we do have the logo possibly hinting at a new Pokemon. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for today. I want to thank you all for watching. The Crabman is out, and I'll see you in the next Crabtastic video. And that is a horrible way to end the video, but I'll see you next time. Peace out.